All right. Over the last week, there has been a ton of speculation about so-called election fraud in this 2024 election. Now, as you know, I take a nonpartisan view on this issue and I try to be as objective as possible. In 2020, I looked into the claims from MAGA of voter fraud. I found them to be without merit. There were these outrageous conspiracy-laden delusions that didn't materialize. It was mostly brought on by MAGA's complete and total inability to accept that Donald Trump simply lost. That's all that happened in 2020. There were not fraudulent dumps of ballots. There were not, just none of it materialized. Now, this time around, I continue to hear from people in the audience that say, you know, David, this time there really was voter fraud. Did you see this letter? Did you see that analysis? And like last time, I try to be as objective as possible. I continue to look at the claims and I continue to examine them. Early on, after the results started coming in, both sides were claiming these vote totals suggest that there is fraud. And the explanation for all of it is they were still counting the votes. Right-winger Benny Johnson, with whom I've appeared on the Piers Morgan program, published an excretion to X where he said, weird how 20 plus million Democrats just disappeared in a single election from 2020 to 2024. Super strange, man. Joe Biden got 81 million votes. Kamala got 60. Very sus. Now, Benny Johnson is arguing the early vote totals were proof that there was fraud in 2020. The right arguing that it must be the case that the 2020 numbers were bogus. But then we also had left-wingers using those early vote totals to justify their point of view. A tweet from a left-winger who thought this was nefarious read, quote, "So people that voted by mail are doing the track my vote thing. All 20 million that voted Democrat that have reported so far say they were told they didn't vote, including my cousin and sister, 2 different states. 20 million missing Democrat votes, and Kamala is going to call Trump at 4 p.m. today to concede. WTF. Now, once again, those ballots were not counted yet. They almost certainly didn't come from the 7 swing states that decided the election. The fact that there were extended vote counts in California, for example, tells us nothing about potential or supposed fraud in Michigan or Georgia or states that would have made a difference. So it's really important to understand a lot of these claims contextually. And most importantly, as more and more votes have been counted, the gaps and changes from 2020 are completely plausible and reasonable. The other thing that should be accounted for is there's been a lot of stock placed in early vote, mail-in vote versus same-day vote discrepancies here, there. Over the last 2 election cycles, there have been massive shifts in voter behavior in terms of who is likely to vote early, in person, by mail, all of these different things. And what I come to when I look at all of it is that the only thing there's really evidence for is that those who voted genuinely preferred Trump to Kamala Harris. Now, by a much smaller margin than we thought at the beginning, as Donald Trump's vote share has now dropped below 50%. But that seems really to be the takeaway. Now, let me deal with a couple of other claims that were made. There is the claim that Elon Musk's Starlink satellites were used to alter vote counts in swing states. I addressed this claim a little over a week ago. We still have nothing new that would be evidence or proof of that at all. The conspiracy theory falsely attributes vote tampering to Starlink technology. Remember that election infrastructure is not connected to the internet in such a way that Starlink satellites would be able to do what is alleged. And most importantly, we have no evidence at all that that happened. If someone presents evidence, then we can evaluate it more seriously. And then the other claim that's being made is, how do you get Democrats winning Senate races in states that Trump carried? It doesn't make sense. This one has been used by both sides to allege fraud. Eric Hovde, for example, has claimed it. People on left and right have claimed you've got these different results, Senate versus Trump-Harris. Again, split ticket voting is not that rare. We know in Arizona, for example, that the split ticket voting led to Trump winning Arizona, but Kari Lake losing, because there were about, last I checked, it was about 75,000. The number may have changed. There were about 75,000 people who went out, they voted for Trump, and they did not vote for Kari Lake. That's split ticket voting that went against Republicans. At the same time, we have other states in which there are some people on the left saying the split ticket voting is suspicious. It went for Republicans. It's just split ticket voting, and there is no evidence of fraud there. And then finally, there are people generically claiming that there were software breaches in the battleground states, Georgia, Michigan, Pennsylvania, etc. We did have breaches recorded from 2022 in Georgia. Despite breaches, there was no evidence that there was any manipulation or tampering of the votes. That's 2022. And we just don't have evidence of that in 2024. Finally, I do want to address the recount thing, which is we should have recounts. We need recounts. Recounts could change everything. Couple different things on recounts. Recounts are usually reserved for elections where the margin of victory is smaller than a threshold defined in advance by the states. And the idea is we're not going to do recounts in states where there is no realistic expectation that the modification that you could find with a recount would change the result. On average, recounts shift results at the most 0.02 to 0.04%. It's an insane amount of work. It's extraordinarily expensive. And when you look at the numbers and you see the margins are orders of magnitude bigger than what you would ever expect to change with a recount, it's simply not codified that that's what you do. So that's my current view as far as the recounts go. This holiday season, after that insane election we just had, where you might be feeling like it's the end of the world, it's good to take time to slow down, enjoy time with loved ones, and here is a great way to do it. Doomlings, a delightful card game for the end of the world. Doomlings is a really funny new card game for 2 to 6 players. The game doesn't really focus on doom and gloom or the end of the world. It's just about having fun with people you love. The game only takes 5 minutes to learn. The rules are on the cards, easy to pick up even for kids, and suitable for anybody 10 and up. The game started on Kickstarter just a few years ago, went totally viral. Doomlings is now available at Target and Walmart, but if you go to doomlings.com/Pacman and use the code Pacman, you'll get 15% off. Grab yourself a copy of the game. I've had a ton of fun playing it. Hilarious, guaranteed to make it a great time with family and friends. The link is in the description.